Let's talk to one of the companies that actually did list on the bourse today, and that's Mamata Machinery. Our premium, it's up 159% today. And to join us and talk about the company and the outlook ahead, we're joined by the CEO of the company, Mr. Apurva Kane. Welcome to the show, Mr. Kane.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah, let me start off. The IPO was an offer for sale, so there are no fresh proceeds going for the company. So could you give us a sense of what the strategy is going forward, in a sense of how do you see business growing going forward?
Well, Mamata is a 35-year-old company, and we've been in market in 75 countries around the world. So we have done this based on our focus on innovation and technology, as well as foresight to enter various markets. And for future growth, we will continue to do this.
In terms of FY25 revenue, it was an 18% growth, but what's the outlook in terms for the entire FY25? Is it lumpy in terms of H1 versus the kind of growth you're expecting to see in H2?
In our machinery business, particularly capital equipment, H1 and H2, there is always a difference. So H1 is always very slow, and H2 then picks up. And it can be nearly 70% in our case of the final top line. Case of the point is that if you look at our DRHP and RHP figures, we had published December 23 as a stub period, and we were at about, and then we published FY24, and just the last quarter last year had contributed nearly 95 CR. So, yeah, that is how things work in capital equipment.
Got it, Mr. Kane. Let me talk about your order book. Now, order book is around 180 crores currently. What's the execution period on the current order book, and what's your projections like on where this order book number could go to going forward?
We have order book on hand. We have execution bandwidth up to 31st of March, and we think that we will be able to give similar growth as last year for FY25 also.
In terms of your entire current order book, when would this entire order book be executed by?
As of our current order book, nearly 90% will get executed by 31st of March, and about 10% will spill over. So basically, whatever is the new order intake from now until 31st March will go into the next year's account.
With the kind of order book that you have, Mr. Kane, this is Hiral on the side, what is the capex that you will have to incur? Or do you think you're well capitalized right now, and in terms of operations, you have the capacity to operate further with no additional capex?
We are a debt-free company, virtually a debt-free company. We have funds on our balance sheet that we can deploy for our expansion, for our immediate expansion. Our current capacity is about 350 machines. And at our own location, we can add a couple of buildings and build it up to about 450 machines a year. So we can go up to about 500 CR turnover from the same location without any major capex.
Okay. So if you're looking at, no additional capex, expansion can happen till 450 machines. Currently from 350, what's the utilization at?
We should be doing about 300 machines this year.
Okay. And overall, with regards to where your business goes, 90% of it is dependent, in terms of raw materials, right, which are sourced. So any fluctuation in terms of pricing of raw materials does have a major impact on your margins. How do you hedge that part of the business, and where do you see your margin stabilizing?
The raw material pricing post-COVID, there was a sudden rise in year 22, but we have been able to absorb that and maintain our margins for 22 as well as 23. And we are confident that we can maintain our margins irrespective of fluctuations in input costs.
Okay. Apart from, so are you saying that you are absorbing the fluctuations and not passing it to, the end customer?
Well, two things happen. Remember, we are an engineering company and we believe in frugal engineering, and therefore we can. I'll give you an example that when the steel prices went up about 3 years ago, we actually redesigned our machine frames and reduced consumption of steel by about 35%. That's how you absorb cost. So it is about innovative and thinking in terms of design of the products. That's our strength.
Got it, Mr. Kane. I have one last question to you. 25 to 30% of your business is from India. The rest is export markets. So which countries are you seeing more demand coming in? And could we expect this, could we expect a more a shift in this business mix in terms of India versus international markets?
Traditionally, we've been doing about 30% of our top line in India, about 30% on the entire American continent, which is being looked after by our subsidiary in USA. So US subsidiary is responsible for Canada, US, and Central South America. That gives about 30%. And balance 30% comes from Middle East, Africa, and Europe. And so we are pretty evenly divided over rest of the world, Americas, and India. What we see is our sales growing also in India, and that can contribute up to 40% of our turnover, because the Indian packaging, particularly flexible packaging market in food, processed food industry, is growing very rapidly.
Okay. So clearly, you are looking at expansion with regards to Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And if that's the scenario, will the concentration in terms of India business still reduce? So will it come down from the current 27 to 30% to say a 15 to 20% and exposure to exports increases? Or do you think the balance will continue to remain?
Well, we call ourselves a global company, so we think locally and operate globally. We have no preferences. Whichever market is giving us the business, that is the market in which we will expand.
And with regards to where the inventory goes, where does it stand currently for you? Because the past inventory has been high. And how are you looking at the working capital cycle pan out from here then?
In machinery business, inventory tends to be lumpy and it looks high, particularly towards end of the year, because you have a lot of machines that are in transit and that sales cannot be recognized. So they come as basically finished goods in the inventory. So it's a cyclical thing. Everybody had issues about overseas shipment because containers were not available and things like that. So that happens in machinery business. We hope to have a working capital cycle of between 100 and 120 days going forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kane, for joining us and giving us a more detailed, insight about the company and what lies ahead. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.